Hey everybody, Chris Sinog here. So today I'm doing the next video in the series of the new rules of marksmanship, and today we are talking about focus. And as you can see there, I got a lot of comments about how my avatar didn't really look too much like me since I started growing my beard out. So I adjusted my avatar, so hopefully that looks a little bit more what I look like right now. All right, so let me just go over very briefly the kind of old methods of marksmanship that most of us learned. And, it's been around for, I don't know, 40, 50 years. I learned it 25 years ago or so. And, it's your stance and your grip and your sight alignment, sight picture, trigger press, breathing, follow through. And these are all methods to shooting. So, we kind of have been teaching them as if they're fundamental, but in reality, not a single one of these is fundamental to being able to teach you how to shoot. So that's kind of how the new rules of marksmanship, how I developed it. All right, so what are the new rules of marksmanship? Very quickly here. Well, number one, the first one is to train your mind and the body will follow. Sounds pretty simple. Number two is you want to plan out your training. You'd plan for anything else in life. Surprisingly few people actually plan out how they're going to train. Number three, I talked about this one last week in my video, but using the laws of physics to your advantage. So this is actually using the laws of physics in your stance and in your grip and all your different shooting positions, how you hold the gun. Use physics and not a method that works for somebody else, and it'll make you a better shooter. Number four, the one I'm going to be talking about today, is learning how to focus. And I'm going to be concentrating mostly on focusing on your front sight and how that's going to improve your shooting, but it also includes focusing on your training, focusing on planning your training. The more you focus on, the better you're going to get. Number five is train without stress to build strong neural pathways. And then you want to deliberately practice each technique and get constant feedback as you're shooting. And I'll be going over those in, future training. All right, but like I said, today I'm going to be going over learning how to focus, teaching you how to focus, and this lesson today is really going to be invaluable to you as a shooter. If you learn this, when you learn this, it's really going to be an eye-opener, and it's, if you're all over the target, if you haven't been focusing, this is really going to instantly make you a better shooter. All right, so what is focusing? This is it right here. When you shoot, this is what your front sight should look like. You can see your rear sights there, and the target is there behind the gun, downrange there. You can actually see the outline of the target, very blurry. Well, that is exactly what you should see when you shoot. I get a lot of people who write me and say, I'm focusing on the front sight, and when I do it, I can't see the target at all. The target's so blurry. Well, good job. That is exactly what you want. And remember that. So this is focusing and this is looking. Okay? So let's look at it again. This is focusing. This is what you want. This is looking. Okay? And I find most people, when they shoot, are generally looking at the sights. And I'm going to go over a few techniques. Once you understand them, once you practice them a couple times, you will be focusing like an expert. All right, so which one are you doing? Okay, if you see the target nice and crystal clear like that, well, I'll tell you, you are looking at your sights, and we're going to fix that. All right, and to focus on the front sight post, you really need to win two battles. So what are those? Well, battle number one is with your mind. And you need to fight your mind, because your mind is trying to play tricks on you, okay? So before I get into it, I want to review something that has to do with physics of last week, okay? And what I want to go over very quickly is a parallel shift error and an angular shift error, because once you understand this, you will be able to tell your mind, hey, listen there, mind, you need to focus on the front sight, not on the target, and this is why. Okay, so this is a parallel shift error. So with a parallel shift error, your sight alignment is perfect. Your sight picture is not perfect. So you can see right here that those two lines are parallel. So you want to hit in the middle of the target, but you are just a little bit off. Your sight picture is not perfect, but because you're focusing on that front sight post, your sight alignment is perfect, but you're a little off in your sight picture. The next one is an angular shift error. Now, an angular shift error happens when your sight alignment is not perfect, and your sight picture may be perfect. It may not be perfect, but we know your sight alignment is not perfect. And as you can see right there, an angular shift error happens when you have a sighting problem starting from your sighting system. And this happens with any two-plane sighting system, which, on a pistol you're using front sight, that's one plane. Rear sights, that's another plane. So a two-plane sighting system. You have an error occurring right there. So from that point forward, your angular shift error, it continues to multiply and multiply. And you can see in the picture here, you're actually going to be very easily missing the target. All right, so which one is more important? Well, I think it's pretty easy to see, but just let me explain to you what happens. Generally, if people are looking at the target, they are being more concerned with a parallel shift error. So take, for instance, a lot of people will write me and say, hey, Chris, I have a wobble. I just can't hold steady on the target. And I'll tell you what, if you are shooting at, say, a 10 or 12-inch target, unless your wobble is bigger than 10 or 12 inches, don't worry about it. You are still going to hit the target as long as you keep your sight alignment perfect. And the way to keep your sight alignment perfect is to focus on the front sight. And again, we're going to go over that in just a minute here. So to fix this, now that you understand, it's much more important to focus on that front sight so you can keep perfect sight alignment, not worry so much about aiming perfectly at that target. Just tell your mind, hey, it's more important that we focus, on these sights and keep them properly aligned than to see the target clearly. Okay? All right, battle number 2 is with your eyes. Now, your eyes use what's called saccadic movements, and these are just short, fast little jumps, and they are trying to actually help you fixate on an object, such as your front sight post. And here's something to remember. This is a voluntary movement. So with a voluntary movement, you can control it yourself, with practice, of course. All right, so if you've seen my other video or on YouTube, you may have seen this, but just take a look at it and let your eyes wander. Just look at it. Don't focus, because if you were focusing properly, it wouldn't look like it's moving. But if you look around, if you just kind of have lazy eyes, it's going to look like it's moving. All right, so hopefully everybody saw that. It looked like it's moving. Now, just like anything else, you need to practice how to focus. And if you do that, if you practice this, you're going to be able to control and stop that saccadic movement of your eyes. Because remember, that's a voluntary movement of your eyes. All right, so now I want you to focus. I put a little mark on the front sight post here. Focus on it for 30 seconds. And this is a good training exercise that you can do, doing dry weapons training at home with your weapon, looking at your front sight, just focusing on it for 30 seconds, okay? So just go ahead and look at that mark. And you don't have to have a mark on your front sight post. The reason it's there is to help draw your eye and keep your eyes fixated on the front sight post. So the same thing with aim small, miss small. If you focus small, you're going to have a much better focus, and your sight alignment is going to be much better, and your shot groups are just going to be incredibly tight, and you'll be amazed at how much better you're going to shoot when you focus. Okay, so you should notice if you're focusing on that, your eyes aren't coming off it, and at first they're going to jump off. You have to fight that. Okay, and you should notice that everything is stopping moving around you. It's exactly what you want. So that's what happened. If you really focused, not looked, if you really focused, the movement stopped. All right, so let's try another one again. Now this is one of my favorite ones here, okay? So it should be pretty obvious. There's some, I don't know what color that is, pink or purple dots in a circle. And I'm going to do something here. It's not in, well, it is an optical illusion, but I am not changing anything on this next screen, okay? So let's focus on that mark, okay? So I'm going to do it with you here. And to be honest, mine, they're gone right now. I've done this so many times, and you're going to learn, just like I said earlier, the more you practice, the better you're going to get, just like anything else. And, people will ask, well, if I have to take a shot quickly, or, if I'm in combat, or if I'm, somebody breaks into my house, how can I can't sit and focus on this front sight post for 30 seconds before I need to take a shot. And that is exactly correct. But you're not going to need to if you practice enough. If you practice enough, you're going to train your mind, you're going to train your eyes to instantly get drawn to that front sight post, instantly focus, and you will have perfect sight alignment, and you'll be able to, take whatever shot you need to. It works. It's amazing, and this is going to change your shooting forever. So hopefully by now you've focused on that mark on the front sight post, and what'll happen is you'll start to see the dots disappear and go away. Okay, that is when that happens, they'll come back. That's your saccadic movement of your eye not believing it, and it may even be your mind telling you, wait a minute, did that really disappear? And then you'll look away from the front sight, and of course it'll reappear. Okay, so just stay on that and really get into a meditative state, and that's why I recommend meditating and visualization, because the more you do that, the easier this stuff gets. All right, so did the dots vanish? Well, hopefully they did. If they didn't, go back, watch this over and over again. You can find other visual illusions like this online, other pictures. Just do the same thing with them. You don't even need to do that. You can, like I said, do it with your firearm, do it with your pistol, pull it out, and just focus on that front sight. All right, so to do this, just tell your eyes where to focus. Keep them on that front sight, because you can control it with deliberate practice. You can learn to do it instantly with consistent practice, and I told you that. I said when these pictures come up, I've done them so many times, and I've practiced for 25 years doing this, and they instantly disappear. And sometimes I'll think that I put up the wrong picture or something when I'm teaching a course and doing this in a classroom, and I have to actually force myself to look away to see and make sure, for instance, those dots are still there. So you can do it too, just like anything else in life. Just practice it, and you will get it too. How your hold can work against you is, this is another question that I get a lot of times. Where should I be holding? And the two things are your center mass hold and your 6 o'clock hold. And I'm going to show you here how, if you choose the wrong one, it's going to directly work against your ability to focus properly. All right, so this is the center mass hold right here. So you can see there's a circle there. It's blurry because I'm focusing on the front sight here. My target is that dot in the back, but I just put it in the center of that dot, And your eye has a natural ability to be able to find the center of anything. And that's why this works. And it works very quickly, as opposed to if you're doing a 6 o'clock hold, there's a couple things wrong with this. Well, one, if I want to hit the middle of a target and I have to aim lower than it to be able to hit the middle of it, well, I have to make an adjustment during the firing process. And also you'll notice, because I'm focusing properly, or I'm trying to, my front sight is crystal clear, but if you look at the dot is actually blurry like it should be. That's my target. You know, say it's a bullseye dot. Well, because it's blurry, it's all, you can't really find the outside of that. And your eyes are going to pick up on that, and they're not going to let you focus on that front sight. You're not going to be able to get it this clear and this perfect, because your eye is constantly going to be jumping back and working back and forth between your sights and that target, because there is no definite line, and that's what it's trying to find. Okay? So, center mass group. If you use a center mass hold, you'll be shooting center mass groups, and hopefully you know or knew how we got our name. All right, and this is one more point that I wanted to talk about. Okay, just the simple act of focusing fixes your sight alignment. Now, what I mean by this is you don't actually need to make sure that there is equal space on both sides of your front sight post, because actually if you're doing that, you can't focus on that front sight post. You're constantly going to be looking back and forth. But in the same way that if you are trying to drive a car through a tight space, say there's a car on your left and a car on your right, and it's very tight, you got like an inch on each side. You don't look back and forth to each side. You look straight ahead and you just focus and you thread that needle. Hopefully you do, but this is why it works. It works the same way that you can find the center, your eye can find the center of that dot by focusing on the front sight. It can also find equal light on both sides of that front sight post by crystal clear focus on that front sight post. Okay, so once you get this, again, you're just going to be amazed at how well it works. So focusing on your front sight lines you up on target, and it aligns your sights. That's it. It's really that simple. And remember, focusing your mind will make learning actually easier. So that goes back to focusing through meditation and visualization. The positive mindset that I talked about, in that first new rule of marksmanship. And then finally, focusing your training is going to make you learn faster. So by focusing, that means, coming up with a plan and doing deliberate practice and stuff that I'm going to talk about coming up here in the next training sessions. And then, focusing in general, it will change your shooting forever. If you get this right now, if you pick it up and you learn this and you got it, you're just going to be amazed at how well you shoot. All right, so, we went through some things and taught you how to focus. Hopefully you learned it. If you did not learn it, if you didn't get it, go back and watch this again and again. You will get it. Everybody gets it eventually if you trust it and believe it. All right, so this was the old you. This is you looking at the sights. Okay, but this is the new you. This is what you need to see when you're at the range shooting. But more importantly, the way to get there is to see this when you're doing your dry weapons training, to build that perfect neural pathway of seeing what you need to see. All right, so go ahead and try it and trust it. It is going to work. It does work. I've been teaching this for 25 years now, from every level, from the most elite shooters in the world to people like you who maybe never had a lesson, or maybe try to pick things up on YouTube here and there, and you don't have a system that makes sense. Well, the new rules of marksmanship is your system if you want to get better. All right, so that's it for learning how to focus. Next week, I'm going to talk about how to train without stress so you can build these strong neural pathways that we talk about. So make sure you keep an eye out for that. And if you want to learn more, you can go ahead and download a free copy of my ebook, The New Rules of Marksmanship. And it is my firearms training manifesto. Okay, so this is a system to learn how to shoot. It's not a method. This is how you should hold a gun. This is, what works for me when I hold a gun. This is what you need to do to really learn anything. Any skill you want to learn, this will work for you. And you can get a free copy. Just go to my website, Center Mass Group, sign up there, and I will send you a free copy of this ebook. You'll be able to download it and start learning and improving your shooting instantly. So again, thank you for watching. I really hope you learned this. And if you have questions, go ahead and put them down in the bottom of the blog post to this article. I don't get onto YouTube too much to be able to answer questions there. So if you have questions, I do answer all questions on my blog post. So I will put a link in the YouTube video, and you can go there to make sure you can get your questions answered. But until next week, try this out, work on focusing, and keep paving your path to perfection.